The starship Eclipse drifted silently through the void, its hull scarred from countless battles. Inside, Django leaned against the bulkhead, his hand resting on the hilt of his ancient sword. The blade, a relic from Earth's forgotten past, was his most prized possession. Its edge gleamed with a faint, otherworldly light, and its hilt was wrapped in leather worn smooth by centuries of use. To Django, it was more than a weapon. It was a symbol of humanity's resilience. The crew of the Eclipse had been summoned to the Galactic Council's outpost on Zephyria Prime, a sprawling megastructure orbiting a dying star. The Council had called for a meeting of species, a rare event that only occurred when the galaxy faced a crisis. Django, the last human in known space, had been invited as a representative of his extinct race. He didn't know why they wanted him there, but he wasn't about to turn down the chance to remind the galaxy that humanity wasn't gone. Not yet. As the Eclipse docked, Django stepped onto the outpost's gleaming platform. The air was thick with the hum of alien languages and the scent of exotic spices. Beings of every shape and size moved through the corridors, their forms a kaleidoscope of evolution's creativity. Django's presence drew stares. Humans were a rarity, and his sword only added to the spectacle. The council chamber was a vast, circular room with a domed ceiling that displayed a holographic map of the galaxy. At the center stood the alien queen, a towering figure with iridescent scales and eyes that glowed like molten gold. She was the leader of the Kurl, a species known for their ruthlessness and technological prowess. Her voice echoed through the chamber as she addressed the assembled delegates. "The galaxy is under threat," she declared. "The Void Wraiths have returned, and their hunger knows no bounds. We must unite or face annihilation." Murmurs of fear and uncertainty rippled through the crowd. The Void Wraiths were a legend, a nightmare from the darkest corners of space. No one had seen them in millennia, but their reputation was enough to strike terror into the hearts of even the bravest warriors. Django stepped forward, his boots clicking against the polished floor. "If the Void Wraiths are real, then we fight," he said, his voice steady. "But we don't cower. Humanity faced worse in its time." The alien queen turned her gaze on him, her lips curling into a sneer. "Ah, the last human. Oh, quaint. Tell me, little man, do you plan to face the Void Wraiths with that toy?" She gestured to his sword, her tone dripping with mockery. The chamber erupted in laughter. Django's grip tightened on the hilt, but he kept his composure. "This toy," he said, "has saved my life more times than I can count. It's not the weapon that matters. It's the hand that wields it." The queen's laughter was cold and sharp. "Brave words from a relic of a dead species. Very well, human. Prove your worth. Join the vanguard in the coming battle. Let us see if your blade is as sharp as your tongue." Django nodded. "I'll be there." The battle took place in the ruins of an ancient star system, its planets reduced to rubble by eons of cosmic decay. The Void Wraiths were unlike anything Django had ever seen. They were shadows given form, their bodies shifting and twisting as they moved through the void. Their ships were jagged and black, absorbing light like a black hole. The vanguard was a mix of species, each bringing their own weapons and tactics to the fight. Django stood on the deck of a warship, his sword in hand. The alien queen watched him from her command throne, her expression unreadable. As the Void Wraiths descended, chaos erupted. Energy weapons flared, and the air was filled with the screams of the dying. Django moved through the carnage like a ghost, his sword cutting through the shadows with ease. The blade seemed to hum in his hand, its light growing brighter with each strike. The queen's mocking words echoed in his mind, but he pushed them aside. He had a job to do. A void wraith loomed before him, its form shifting and writhing. Django swung his sword, and the blade passed through the creature as if it were smoke. For a moment he thought he had missed, but then the wraith let out a shriek and dissolved into nothingness. The battle raged on, and Django fought with a ferocity that surprised even himself. His sword cut through the wraiths like a hot knife through butter, its light driving back the darkness. The other warriors began to take notice, their fear turning to awe as they watched the last human carve a path through the enemy. Finally, the tide began to turn. The void wraiths retreated, their ships vanishing into the void as quickly as they had come. The vanguard let out a cheer, their voices echoing through the ruined star system. Django stood amidst the wreckage, his sword still glowing faintly. He was exhausted, but he had never felt more alive. The alien queen approached him, her expression unreadable. For a long moment she said nothing. Then, to everyone's surprise, she bowed her head. "You have proven your worth, human," she said, her voice soft. "I was wrong to mock you. Your blade is not a toy. It is a weapon of legend." Django nodded, too tired to speak. He sheathed his sword and turned to leave, but the queen stopped him with a hand on his shoulder. "Wait," she said. "There is more. The void wraiths are not defeated. They will return. And when they do, we will need you." Django met her gaze, his eyes steady. "I'll be ready." The Eclipse left Zephyria Prime with a new mission. Django sat in the ship's lounge, his sword resting across his knees. The crew moved around him, their voices filled with excitement and relief. They had survived the battle, but the war was far from over. Django ran a hand over the blade, feeling the familiar grooves and imperfections. It was more than a weapon, it was a reminder of who he was and where he came from. Humanity might be gone, but its spirit lived on in him. As the starship hurtled through the void, Django closed his eyes and smiled. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but he was ready to face them. With his sword in hand and the memory of his people in his heart, he knew he could overcome anything. The alien queen had mocked his sword, but in the end it had left her, and the entire galaxy, stunned and speechless. And Django, he was just getting started.